And then after that, I know that we have the giveaways and the awards, or not awards, but giveaways and all of those different things. We have some cool things to do. So with that, Tracy, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome, thank you. So welcome everybody. And I know we've kind of already started sharing some things, but I wanted to just take a minute and we're going to be using Menti today. So before I get started, I was just going to ask everybody to turn on your cameras, like Chas said, and go ahead and log into menti.com. It's going to be a different code that if you were on the last session than what Govi had on the screen. So we are going to actually use this, but if you need CPE credit, our first question is really, really easy for you. So the code for this session is 4259189. And if you need CPE, we need you to type in your name or your email address. If you do not need CPE, have fun with this because the results are hidden. so you know, just have a nickname or whatever the case may be, but make sure that it's a little bit appropriate because there'll be people that do see this. So
I know code,
like I said on the last session, so menti.com. It's super easy to use, and we'll be utilizing this throughout the entire session. So you can grab your phone, a tablet, or use the web browser of a separate screen than the Zoom link. Once you get to menti.com, then enter the code at the top of the screen. So let's get started. I see we have 5 people in so far, so we can allow for a little bit more time. I know that you guys just got done talking about volunteering, and as Chastity mentioned, I was part of the Greater St. Louis chapter, which is now one chapter for the Greater Heartland chapter. And I really was honored to be able to serve as a volunteer for not only the chapter, but as a regional executive and the chapter advancement team before starting at HFMA. So it is even more awesome to be on this site, to be able to support all the volunteers, and putting this type of thing together is not an easy task. So kudos to all of the individuals that were involved to put this on today. One of the things, and I'm just going to keep talking because we're going to allow people to log into Menti, but you know, the workplace is filled with challenges dealing with the virtual workforce, employee engagement, and a need to attract and retain the best talent. And volunteering and getting engaged with HFMA was one of the best things from a professional standpoint for me, because it allowed me to do certain things. And together we can help foster a culture of continuing learning and developing the leaders of tomorrow. The local chapter, you can pursue leadership opportunities, education programs, webinars, take advantage of the networking. And, you know, at some point, the virtual networking is awesome. And you know, you guys have done a really good job. Moving into that next part where we're going to be face-to-face and maybe even in a hybrid model, you know, we need to be, you know, that networking is where people come together. And any professional association is a great way to enhance your career, you know, expand your connections and have fun. I have had a ton of fun, and I have a lot of friends that came with my affiliation with HFMA. I also was president of AHAM because I was a glutton for punishment and didn't know which one I wanted to be part of. So I did both almost at the same time, back-to-back years. So, you know, the one thing I will tell you that learning and developing new skills in a safe environment is essential. Like it made a huge difference, because if I messed up at a board meeting with HFMA or AHAM, I didn't lose my job. But if I had messed up a board meeting with my physician partners, holy buckets, like that could have been detrimental. So it gave me a platform to kind of find my way in a sense of and gain that valuable experience. So expanding your network, increasing the visibility, and let's just be honest, having volunteer on your resume, it really is a bonus, and it strengthens your resume. So I think we have 15 people in, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. And I'm going to leave this open, so if anybody comes on late, we could just let them know that they can come into Menti and enter their names before we get into the next group. So could we populate, Diane, that code in the chat, just so I can leave it open, because I'm going to switch over to my PowerPoint. All right. So crucial conversations. I'm going to ask to everybody to either, use chat to kind of comment about some of these things, but have you ever been stuck in communication? And that could be over email, phone calls, on a Zoom meeting where you don't feel like you can actually speak up. And there is probably one or more conversations we are not having or we're not having well. And so the communication, I know that Chas mentioned that I'm certified in crucial conversations. This is not completely a crucial conversations presentation. I will be using some of the content, but it's more of an overview. So I just want to have full disclosure there that this is an overview and not actually part of the training that if you wanted to attend a crucial conversations training course, this is not everything that you would learn during that. So I'm going to ask this. Does anybody feel like you ever tell yourself a story? And I say that because, a lot of times we look at things and we go, oh, well, they don't want me to do this, or they're making my life impossible at work. Do they not know I have 15 other deadlines and now they've just given me more work, right? And so those things are when we're telling ourselves a story. So when we're doing that, asking yourself, is it fact? Or is it a feeling? Because if it's a fact and it's tangible and you can see it, you can feel it, and not so much feel it, but you can see it and touch it, or it's actually tangible, then it's probably a good start to say, okay, yeah, they really did say that. Or asking questions can help with that too. And we're going to review some of those. So we're going to have some fun. We're going to go back into Menti for this next question. So if you have your Menti, and I see we got one more person in here. How are you doing today? And I know that this is kind of open-ended, but I am having an amazing day only because it's closer to Friday, and I'm maybe off tomorrow at noon. So I'm very excited that I'm halfway almost done. And the Zoom, another virtual day, is normally how I feel Monday through Wednesday. So I'm just trying to be honest with you guys. And that yay weekend thing, I'm really close from being the Wahoo amazing to the ready for the weekend. So we will keep going here, and we'll allow for everybody to answer, because these is kind of that CPE requirement. Everybody has to participate. I know these are hard questions, and we'll get into those. Oh, good, we have more people on. That is awesome. So it is a tie. Is anybody going to break the tie between Wahoo amazing day or ready for the weekend? The amazing day is taking lead. I have not voted either, so this doesn't include mine, so we could use that too. All right. So to get started on kind of, how did you get your way as a child? And I want everybody to use, were you the demanding child? Were you, did you negotiate your way out of things? Did you throw yourself on the floor and maybe have a temper tantrum? The good news is nobody nobody will know who does what except for me and Diane. So feel free to look at this, because it's interesting to see how we behaved as children, and maybe even how we behave as adults that could transform from behaved as children. So negotiation, we got a lot of negotiators. So there is a continuum of communication that we're going to talk about, and a lot of it goes from, some of us are silent, and we use that silent treatment to hope somebody asks us the right questions so we can continue the conversation, but then we get all feisty and kind of tore up inside, and we're like, well, why don't they want to ask me a question? And I don't know that that's healthy, being in that silent mode, but also being in that violent side of the other continuum of, throwing yourself on the floor and having a tantrum, or, kind of looking at things that way. That's the other continuum, or, stating your opinion and wanting to get your way is another thing of violence, and not allowing others to share in that open communication and dialogue. So, all right. So I was very sneaky. I don't know. I probably shouldn't guess at who all these are. So we'll go back here. So do you think negotiations is silent or violent? And I'm going to just ask people to talk because I can't have my chat open. Well, maybe I can. If you guys are better at the chat, then I can open it. Yep, I can. Okay. So if you think that negotiations is silent or violent, if you want to put it in the chat, or if you just want to talk, that's fine with me too. So negotiation, silent or violent, or even both? Silent?
Yeah, it could kind of be in the middle.
Okay. So you think negotiations is more of a dialogue that are you negotiating to get your way, or are you negotiating to find a commonality?
Commonality.
Okay, then that is a dialogue. You're absolutely right. So a lot of negotiations are one-sided because when we're children, usually we're trying to get our way, right? And as adults, if you negotiate it as a child, that's a very good trait to have because it does carry over into how we communicate as adults. So tantrums, do you think tantrums would be on the silent or violent side?
Violent.
And I'm
So speaking as someone that had to mute
I would say violent.
Yeah.
Yep. So I had to come back here because I couldn't remember exactly how it was, but I did what I was told. I need you to come talk to my kids. I just need them to, do as what I say and not, necessarily what I do. So I just wanted to go back to that just real quick. So the continuum, it is trying to find that middle ground. So not saying anything isn't an answer, but having, a one-sided conversation or being belligerent or aggressive isn't an answer either. And so it's trying to find how do we meet in the middle. So the longer we stay on one side or the other of the strategy, so if we stay on the silent side or the violent side of the strategy, the more the more problems you'll have. So do you guys agree with that statement before I move on to kind of explaining that a little bit? And I can just watch everybody's head shake if you want to. Yes, no, yes, okay. So when we're all stuck in that variety, of different ways, it becomes the relationship is dysfunctional as a team or as a relationship goes. And so the solution is how to identify that the conversation is in a crucial side of things, and that the key to the organization or team interpersonal success is really to find that common ground. So I know that I'm going to go back to Minty real quick because I want to see what you guys think your communication style is. And do you feel like, I put what is the worst in a conversation, silent, violence, neither, or both. And so let's answer that question first. What is worse in a conversation? Being on the silent side, the violent side, neither, or both? So it's important to understand too where you are, and we're going to talk through some of those things too. Do you feel, I'm going to tell you guys something, and I know this is being recorded, so I might have to have this part edited out, but I am one way at work and I am one way at home. That is totally different. So I'm more in the dialogue at work, and maybe even a little bit more on the aggressive side because I've got a type A personality, and I'm very driven and oriented, and I can drill things for that forward thinking. However, when I'm at home, I tend to maybe be silent because I think everybody should know what the right answer is, and why should I have to work hard to get there? So I share that because I don't want anybody to think that you have to be one way or another. And the only time I get silent at work is if I feel threatened, or, like I feel like I've been backed into a corner and I'm in a no-win situation. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. So both is the right answer. That it isn't good to be in either one of those continuums. So being silent is just as non-productive as being in the violent sector. So know that neither one of those areas are good. It's really trying to get into that dialogue area of the continuum. So makes a crucial conversation? And anybody that has ideas can throw them into the chat. There are 3 elements that we're going to go over. So I'm going to give you guys a minute to use the chat, but and if anybody wants to talk, I'm completely okay with that too. So if there's anything that you guys can come up, what would you think would be 3 elements to a conversation that is crucial? Active listening, yep. Taking turns to voice. Body language, that's a good one. Tone is everything, isn't it? I mean, because I could say the same statement and roll my eyes, and the statement changes things, right? So I used body language and tone all in one time because it'd be sickening sweet in my voice. But if I roll my eyes, my daughter's really good at this. And so I am like, oh, so you want me to believe you, but you think I'm not really that smart. And she agrees with me 90% of the time. And then she goes to her room. But, you know, I think that we can use those type of things because they're safer to talk about, right? So the 3 actually that have occurred are opposing opinions, strong emotions, and high stakes. So we start with the opposing opinions. Without this, you really have nothing to discuss. So if you don't have opposing opinions, you're not in a crucial conversation. If your opinions are opposing, that's where things get a little bit on the high stakes side. And that's where the value of a conversation comes from. This also, when you talk about how high are the stakes, you know, that becomes more of the complexity of maybe where your emotions are going to get, you know, even stronger. And that's that fight harder, you know, and when you get into that strong emotions, especially from a personal perspective, a lot of times that's where the most risk occurs too, because what you say can't be taken back, you know, so words, you know, definitely are expressed frequently, and then we kind of get stuck there sometimes. So it's very important to understand where you're at with the conversation. So finding your style under stress is really important. And I have a link here, and I will share all of this with the HFMA, the Florida HFMA, so we can get this information into the app that you guys have been using today for the conference. But being aware of your style under stress is essential. This allows us to find how to get our head right by mastering our story. Like, what is our story and why are we here? And creating new emotions to help us return back to that dialogue. Because if you stay in one of those other continuums, you're never going to meet in the middle. So this assessment is free, and it is only sent to the email you provide. So it's completely confidential. And I state that because I do think that it's important to know where your style under stress is. So I have a video we're going to play here, but it's important to watch Wendy. So Wendy is the subject matter expert, and her manager, Cedrine, is asking her where she's at with a project plan. I'm going to have you guys answer questions about how you are feeling and what different issues are you facing in this conversation if you are Wendy. So let's go ahead and watch this.
Well, your team has had over a week to come up with a plan. How long will it take to complete the project?
So it'll take just over 6 months to finish. 6 months and 1 week to be precise. Is that what you were thinking?
I know this is a stretch, but I was thinking we finish at the end of the quarter.
Oh, well, it's a good thing we're talking about this now before any commitments have been made, because there's no way to finish by then. That's half the usual time.
Well, that's why I put you on the job in the first place. You always find a way to do the impossible.
Well, thanks for the confidence, but I really don't think we can get it done. This is really impossible.
Maybe I didn't make myself clear about how important this is. We're not here to argue over what's possible. Your job is to figure it out and get it done at the end of the quarter. Launch dates are at stake here. Besides, I've already agreed to the date. The accelerated schedule is already in a master plan, and everybody is counting on us.
Wait, you've already made a commitment? You agreed to a deadline before you even talked to me about whether or not it was even feasible?
Well, this needs to happen in order for us to hit plan. Have you forgotten how hard I worked to get you promoted to this position? And do you know what I said about you? I said that you were a team player. Was I wrong about that?
All right. So how do you feel if you're a Wendy? And of course, these videos obviously are a little animated, so I don't know that that's exactly how a conversation would go, but it's pretty close to sometimes how we feel when a project isn't necessarily thought through and no, blindsided is a really good word. Overwhelmed is a word that, you know, like, oh my gosh, now I've already put a plan together, but now they're not listening to how I want to execute. Underappreciated. Yep, absolutely. Frustrated. Yep, overwhelmed. I do think that, and blindsided is a good way to think about it, because you were asked to put a project plan together, and then, you know, things had changed. So I unheard. Yep. Tricked, confused. Does this ever happen to anyone? You know, when, and especially in the times that we're in, I know that I mentioned, you know, working remotely or having more individuals be working from home and different things going on, people's emotions are a little higher than what they have been, and maybe a little bit more snappy in making comments and not necessarily thinking about the outcome. And a lot of that comes in, and comes into this on how you feel once you get through it. So the silence to violence continuum, it really is about making a fool's choice unless you can find that shared meaning. And we often feel like we choose between responding one way or the other, because if we tell them how we really feel, like, you know, the thought bubbles that we have at what we're really thinking compared to what we really should be saying, you know, then we go into that silent version, and then we assume that we can't share our comments. So, you know, to be respectful, take a breath and pause. And that is one thing I am not best at, is you know, just taking those 10 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever the case may be. And the older my kids get, the better I am getting at that, only because they will stop talking to us if we make certain comments. Then they won't feel like it's safe to be heard. So the older my kids have gotten, I pause a lot more, and because what I'm thinking and what I need to say are two different things a lot of times. So I just want to make sure that, you know, we make the fool's choice when we get into that silent or violent continuum. So if you don't talk about it, you will act it out. And so I'm going to just mention this, because if we cannot change our behavior or thought process from telling ourselves those stories or not having the conversation out of fear of losing our jobs or ruining a relationship, if we don't recognize and find a safe way to have a conversation, our actions speak louder than what we are not saying in some cases, or what we are saying in others. It can appear that, you know, we're insensitive, insecure, shallow, conceited. You know, there's a whole lot of ways that this can be misconceived. And so when we start having these conversations effectively, we will see our issues get resolved and the bottom line improve. And that bottom line could be cost. It could be, you know, just the value in general, talking about members, you know, keeping that member in the middle, knowing what our vision and our value statements are, and making sure that that's what, you know, we're all aiming for when we talk about improvement. It is important to find a way to get to dialogue, and we are going to talk about the shared meaning. So let's do that. The pool of shared meaning. So if you can relate to the individuals that are involved in the conversation, that is really ideal. So listen and hear what they are saying, and think about what question to ask yourself. So how am I behaving? Do I need to pause? And I'm going to tell you, knowing the facts and experience, opinions, and feelings held by the others that are in the conversation will make it 10 times easier to have that crucial conversation. So taking and knowing where you are, finding mutual purpose is important. but understanding where you are first is essential. And then, excuse me, and then ask what it is that I want for myself, for others, for the organization, or, you know, for the relationship that you're trying to make things a little bit more from an improvement. So I think I mentioned earlier, you know, if we can get our head right, then we can start moving forward. And then we have to get to where we start with heart and how to stay focused on what we really want. The reason others get defensive with us is not because we lack the right skills, but because we have the wrong motives. So I think that keeping that kind of in the back of your mind when you're trying to have this crucial conversation, change what you want and you'll change how you act is definitely a true statement. I want everybody to think, I think about a conversation you're not having or you're not having well at this point, if it's with your colleague or a boss or, you know, a family member for some sort. But think about a conversation that you're not having and kind of put some of these things into play. So when you think about the problem, the first thing that deteriorates is during a conversation is not necessarily our behavior, but it's our motive. And, you know, I talked about that flight or fight kind of thing, you know, that when we get into the emotions, a lot of times we get into that fight mode. That is our behavior. But if you think about the motive that you have behind that, sometimes is easier to kind of look at and go, okay, so I want this as the outcome, and then learn how to stay focused on what you really want to get better results. All right, so the left-hand column obviously is the one that we have in our thought bubble. And then the right-hand column is really what should be coming out of our mouth. So by saying, that's the craziest idea I've ever heard, it'll never work. You know, by saying, do you really think that's a good idea? And even my tone there wasn't real different, but because I asked a question, do you really think that's a good idea? Then somebody can, you know, give their comments. I'm gonna tell a personal story about my son. He joined the military, he's in the Air Force. And I was definitely on the left-handed side when he asked me to sit down at the kitchen table to talk about this. He'd already been on college site visits. He had scholarships in play for engineering. And when he said, Mom, I'm really want to sign up to be in the Air Force. What do you think? And I just sat there and I didn't talk. I didn't take a breath, and I couldn't even breathe. So I just kind of sat there, and he goes, well, could you say something? And I said, well, you've had a little bit more time to think about this, obviously, than I have. And what I'm not telling you is he was part of the Boeing experience. So the Air Force has the direct connection there. So he had been talking to recruiters for over a year, and he was scared to say anything to me because my dad was in the military, and that just wasn't something I thought he was interested in. So I took a pause for 3 days. I didn't go from the left-handed column to the right-handed column. I took the 3 days because I knew that this relationship that I could impact forever if I replied with the thought bubbles that were going on in my head, or outside of my head even. It could be detrimental for the relationship that I had. So when we came back together, I just brought all the things that I was concerned about, but I didn't make it about me. I made it all about him. And so when he decided to sign up for the military, he was very educated on what he needed to do in order to keep control, because once you sign, you kind of lose that control. So today he's doing well, best decision he's ever made. So, you know, I say that because he has the opportunity to do a lot of amazing things. He is now a mechanical engineer on bomber jets and is learning how to be a mechanical engineer on 7 other jets starting in December. So things are going well. So I only say those things because had I not taken that pause, he might have decided to go to college and been miserable, or he might have decided, you know what, I'm just not going to tell my mom anything anymore, and, you know, go do what I want to do. And would he be as successful? You know, probably, but we won't know. So we're going to go to mentee one last time. And I pause here because we always have a thought in our head about when we encounter somebody that's on this left-hand side, you know, how do we react to them? But also, I want you to think about your conversation you're not having, and if it's one of and is the element that you're not having it because it's uncomfortable? Is it because you think the other person is lazy, or, you know, not pulling his own weight at work, different things like that. And we always have fun with what we think of these people in the workplace, especially. So let me see here. Categories of individuals that are difficult. And I put lazy Larry or sassy Susie. And I think I even said I felt sassy when we got on here earlier today. That's not the sassy I'm referring to. It's more of the eye rolling, or, you know, maybe it's an individual that constantly is, woe is me, I have so much work on my plate, closed-minded, you know, things that can be a deterrent that aren't necessarily about being in that, oh, Debbie Downer, that's one of my favorites. Drama Diana. Negative Nelly, there we go. You guys are good. Oh dear goodness, that's a new one. Oh, that makes me
Karen.
Karen. And then know it all. Yep. We all have one of those in our family or in our office. Ooh, a bully. That's a good one. I'm going to tell you, bullying is in different ways, shape, and form anymore these days, and that is something that spreads across the office, right? If somebody is a bully or even in that Debbie Downer, negative Nelly, it just spreads faster than anything that can be positive. So drama queen. Oh, I like, yeah, drama Diana, drama queen. Angry Annie. That's a good one. Angry Annie is hard to deal with. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm actually gonna kind of horn in on that a little bit, because when somebody's angry or defiant or in that know-it-all mentality, what is the best way to start a conversation with that person? And I'm going to ask people to talk during this. What do you think would be the best approach for somebody that's angry, or no, I know everything, I don't even know why you're asking me to do this? What is the best way to approach that person? No, nobody?
I would say that I would approach it like this. I get a sense that you're unhappy. Let's talk about it. Because you don't know, but you can't say, man, you're mad or you're miserable. You've got to say, I get the feeling, or I get the sense that you're not happy.
That's exactly right. And great thing to say that. Asking them how they, you know, are telling them that this is what you think, or, you know, this is what you're seeing, is the easiest way to approach that, because some people don't realize what their appearance is. And if they are unhappy, you know, to that point of, you know, are you unhappy? You feel, it seems like you're unhappy. They could be shocked when you say that to them. And I say that because some people are just, you know, they're doing the best they can. They're wearing their feelings maybe a little bit more on their sleeve these days than they were before. And so because they seem to be angry or not happy, asking that question is exactly how to start that conversation. So kudos. Anybody else want to chime in here?
Yeah, this is Jackie from Moffitt. One of the best ways that I handle a situation like that was making the person the owner of a project that wasn't very, or I wouldn't say important, but didn't have that huge impact if the person wasn't successful. So making that person the owner and just let her be successful or obviously failed, because you had two options. Really, in my case, I was lucky that this person changed her attitude.
That's great. And that accountability is definitely a way, you know, a way to make someone realize maybe what others are, experiencing. And and your approach to that is exactly what you should do if they have that. So for a more, so holding a crucial conversation, there's a link that's vitalsmarts.com /say that. And a couple of their videos recently have been very good. So we're going to watch one real quick. And this is about email versus a conversation.
Having a crucial conversation is tough. Having one over email is even harder. We often get asked, what's better? Should I have a crucial conversation face-to-face or on the phone? Or is email okay? The answer is it depends, and it depends on this. What's going to be better for the other person? When you think about how you should have that conversation, whether on a video call or in an email, I encourage you to think about what's going to be best for that other person. Let me give you an example. Last week, I had a tough message I had to share with a colleague I deeply care about. We had a call scheduled for a Friday, and I debated whether I should send an email before that. I finally decided I would. And so Thursday afternoon, I sent an email. And in that email, I said, I know this is tough, and I wasn't sure if it would be better or not to send it beforehand or wait for our call, but I wanted to give you a chance to think about it and process it before we come together. A few hours later, she emailed back and said, thank you so much for this email. I did need time to think about this before we talk about it. Just think about that statement. When you send someone an email, if you can do it well, you will give them time to think about it before you pressure them to talk about it. And that can truly be a gift. Thanks for watching.
All right. So when we think about, oops, I pushed the wrong button. I was doing so well too, like on my transitions there. So when we think about that, it really does make a difference on the approach. Just by adding, I wanted you to have time to think about this, our process, before we have our conversation, made it, better for that conversation the next day. So does anybody have any examples of that they've experienced recently? No? Okay. So focus on what you want. And I know that sounds, like we don't care about the other person, but if we know what we are trying to accomplish, then it takes that reptilian brain out of the equation. And when we get there, we are in our fight and flight. And I'm going to tell you, I am 7 foot nothing when I am in that, like my reptilian brain comes in. And if anybody knows me, I'm 5 foot nothing. But I feel like I am ginormous and I'm taking on the world, and it doesn't matter who gets in my way. It definitely is, my self-motivator is definitely there. So we have to think about refocusing our brain by focusing on what we really want. Being in that fight or flight mode, most of us know that when we are here, this is not where we need to be to get, results that we're looking for. And this is just more of a fun slide because I like that little guy with his, rawr thing coming out. So unhealthy motives, and this is one that we talk a lot about at HFMA is not, being right and winning and looking good, or avoiding, that blame game type thing. If you're not taking risks, you're not ever going to fail. And if you're not taking risks, you can't move forward, with that forward thinking. And the environment that we're in right now, we really need to be pushing that envelope even further every day. And status quo is no longer, even reasonable. And sometimes being in a status quo is okay. But when we're learning and we're adapting to new environments, and I've been working from home for 12 years. So everybody assumed that my life didn't change when all this happened, when we all got to stay home. And reality was, 25% of my time was to travel. And about 50% of the time, I didn't have to share my screen or share my video camera because everyone else was in the office or the other individuals were traveling. So now I'm on my screen all day, every day. And so I don't have as much to get my recharge back. And being on the phone call is way different than being on the screen, being on all day. I will tell you that I feel like the being productive is better for some things, but then others feel like, oh my gosh, I start earlier because I don't have a commute. I'm on calls longer because I don't have a drive home. And now people knew I was really starting my day at 7:30. They still expect me to start my day at 7:30. So it's setting boundaries, but knowing what is healthy and unhealthy from motives goes a long way in that. And I mention all of those things because everything that is going on in your environment has potential of making that conversation kind of going sideways. So being right is not always, the answer, but to learn and, find the truth, produce results, strengthen relationships. And those are the motives of the dialogue that we want to get to. So any questions on that before I move into kind of the skills and principles that we're going to discuss?
Well, Tracy, I just had one question. In the world that we're in now, like moving to this remote environment where we are having so many more Zoom meetings and things like that, when you're sitting in a boardroom table, you can have some of those crucial conversations where you can see body language a lot of times and facial expressions. But how do you encourage groups to have those same kind of powerful conversations? Because I think great things come from those type of conversations, but not allowing them to overtalk each other and still, it's kind of teaching them to have virtual manners in a way, right? But still encouraging them to speak. So is there any pieces of advice that you can give with that?
Yeah, especially, so I'll give an example. If you're having a facilitation of, or not a facilitation, but a meeting with more than, 4 people, and one person continues to talk, how do you let them know that you want others in the room to have a voice? And that is a true, issue in the environment we're in. One thing I will, if you have their cell phone number, I have taken the opportunity to say, hey, I want everybody's opinion. I love how engaged you are. It's how you approach that person on the response that you get. So, your engagement is awesome. I really want to give everybody on the phone call an opportunity to share their opinion if they have one. So I'm just going to ask you to mute your line for the next 5 minutes and see if anybody else has anything to say. So it's how you approach the other individual. And let them know your engagement is awesome. Even if it maybe is derailing the conversation, it's the approach that you take with that person. And having the same, making sure that you're doing the same thing you're asking them to do. So if you catch yourself chiming in because oh yeah, you know what, and you get so excited about something, and everybody gets excited, right? Knowing when you have to refocus for yourself, muting your line and taking time for everybody else to have a minute, because just because you're the leader doesn't mean that you are the one that should be running that conversation. Allowing everyone to offer opinions is where we have that forward thinking. It's where we move the needle. That next level is to get everybody's involvement. So did that help answer that?
Absolutely. And are there ways that you would encourage the ones that aren't, that are maybe holding back more because of their intimidation with virtual, where that it may take them a little bit longer to process or they don't immediately respond, but that they would have good insider input? How do you engage them to really start participating?
Well, and that's a great point, though, because one thing I will tell you is if you're not having participation from everyone involved in the meeting, I always put people on the agenda. If you have an opportunity to put an agenda together, make sure everyone has a role, that they're not just sitting there, not participating. If you want everybody to be engaged, then give them some purpose, because everybody needs to have a purpose when they're engaging in a meeting. If you don't have an agenda and it's just like a team huddle, we do a team huddle more frequently now than we used to. And I would encourage that if you used to meet with your team once a week, I would say now, being virtual, you should be meeting at least 3 or 4 times a week, and having those touch points be smaller bite-sized moments. But if it's like a team huddle, then we do a round robin. We make everybody go through, even if it's just, I don't have anything today, but thank you. We make them say something. And I think allowing for everybody to have that voice, it will encourage them at some point to be in that safety net where they know, oh, okay, she really does want us to talk to each other, or this is an engaging conversation.
So Tracy, I have a question.
Perfect.
When you're having those meetings with your staff, do you make it mandatory to have their video on? And what is the right perception? I mean, even like if you're having a client meeting, I kind of feel like they're shut down if they don't turn on their camera, if they have the ability to, right?
Yep. And that is a great point, Cheryl. So one thing is yes, the answer is yes, we require you to have your video camera on. I don't care if your hair's up on top of your head, you have no makeup on, you have glasses on because you overslept and you couldn't get your contacts in that morning. We're not there to have a fashion show, and we make it very clear, hey, I most of the time have my hair up on top of my head, if I'm being completely honest about internal meetings. But even from a client perspective, Cheryl, I think that I always put in my meeting invite, plan on having your videos on, plan on being engaged, we're all going to participate. And I think by making sure that they know that it's an entire participation thing, it makes people aware. And then when they do have to have their camera on, they are more engaged. And if they don't have their camera on, and then that has gotten to be a little bit of a pain point for some people is, are they multitasking and doing emails over here? Are they having another conversation with someone else? And I can't see because their line is muted and those type of things. So it brings more anxiety than it really needs to. And I actually have started out meetings that way. Hey, thank you so much for everybody turning your video camera on today. It alleviates anybody having anxiety that we're not all here together trying to accomplish the same goal. And then you just start. So it's just kind of making it front and center. So does that help?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. So I'm not going to run through all of these because I know I'm starting to get a little bit closer to the end of time, and I want to allow for more questions. So I'm just going to leave these slides up so you guys can, kind of read through them. But one thing I want to mention on here is take control of your meetings, your emotions, and understand others. Like when I first started at HFMA, I hated talking in front of people. That was not the thing I wanted to do. Now I do it every day. But when I first started, when I was going up through the chapter ranks and I became president, I would have paid somebody to get up and do my president's message at the beginning of a thing. And I mean, I may have done that once or twice and maybe didn't pay them, but I might have bought them a drink afterwards because I would physically make myself sick. So I took Toastmasters and I did things that made myself a little bit more comfortable being in front of people. But it took the person that was 2 presidents in front of me to say, what are you scared of? And I was like, I don't know. What if I say something wrong? She's like, you're the only one that's going to know. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she encouraged me to take this Toastmasters. When I was in that, they're like, okay, so own it. And even if you say something wrong, it's okay. But at least you're, getting out of your comfort zone. So if I can encourage anybody to do anything is, if it's a conversation, an email, over the phone, face-to-face, listen, ask more questions, but get out of your comfort zone. Staying in that spot, you're never going to move forward in what you maybe could accomplish. My thing was public speaking, and there's a couple other things, but that one was the biggest one. And I actually physically would make myself sick to do this type of thing. And now today I do it probably. This is my second presentation today, not on the same subject, by the way. So I probably gave you guys some information that you weren't anticipating today. So I'm actually not going to play this just because what she talks about, it is Maine Health. They did crucial conversations skill training, and what this video actually shows is that they took where their employees were only speaking up 10% of the time. Only 10% of the time when they wanted to speak up is when they were speaking up. And after they gave them certain skills to be able to have the conversations that they were looking at, they moved into that 50 to 60% where people were sharing and speaking up when they needed to. And their costs were down, the medical errors, you know, in billing, all the way through even in the operating room, you know, there were less things that were going on with those type of things. So I would share that video, but it's a long one, so I'm not going to. But that's basically what that shows. So finding mutual purpose is also important, and getting back to that conversation you identified at the beginning of the session, if you have one, what are the consequences if you don't have that conversation? And I think that's important to understand because, you know, I've being remote, you know, having people in the office in Chicago and me being on an island sometimes when they were in a conference room, now we're all on the same playing field and things have changed dramatically. But the individuals that used to feel like they were in the office and they had a connection now feel very disconnected, even though I feel more connected. And so being aware of those things and knowing that not having these conversations is not making anything better. And if you have anything that you want to share, please don't hesitate to put it in the chat function. And now I want to open it up to see if anybody has any questions or wants to share anything with how you're dealing with a conversation that maybe you're having currently today. Oh, come on. Don't make me call on you guys because I so will.
I'm going to ask a different question, Tracy. So just for any of our new volunteers that we have that came to this event today and is unsure of whether they want to get involved or what they should do, from your experience, just what would you say to them from an HFMA engagement side and participation side?
Yeah, so I will tell you, when I first started with HFMA, I was new to the St. Louis area. I was transferred with my job from Colorado, and my boss encouraged me to go to an HFMA meeting. And I didn't know anybody in town, within healthcare, nothing. And within 6 to 9 months, I had a group of people I could call, email, you know, that were very encouraging and became one of the best mentors I've ever had. And so I encourage you to use the time that you have with HFMA, with education, volunteering, networking, but getting access to some of the leaders in your area is the best resource that you could possibly have from getting connected. And as I mentioned earlier, some of my best friends are from HFMA, and a lot of us were in leadership at the same time, and you're going to have growing pains. You're going to learn how to adapt. And I will tell you, I never really had to deal with type A personalities that were at the same level as I was until I started advancing in my career. You know, it was always somebody telling me what to do when I first started, and you respected that and you just kind of move forward. And then you move up the ladder a little bit. And then now all of a sudden, everybody has that same goal, you know, and there's a lot of push and pull. Well, HFMA allowed me to maybe practice some of the skills that I wanted to deliver at my professional job, and I learned a lot. And so I think taking those opportunities and learning what is the next thing that you want to do, and get set and dig in, and anything is possible. You know, and I do think that volunteering for an organization, regardless if it's HFMA or a different professional association that you are passionate about, if you're passionate about it, get involved, because you'll get 10 times more out of your membership than what you get just from an education session. And that would be my biggest selling point there. And I know there's a lot of individuals on here that have probably similar stories, but, you know, Govi, how did you get involved?
I got involved back in, I want to say 2010, 2011, when I made a relocation from Illinois to Florida. I think Florida was just such an active chapter. And when I first got involved, I was really a passive member. And it was not until I realized I started volunteering, just doing little things here and there, just helping out with events, that I started realizing the power of HFMA and how much your network can change, and your network starts developing to meaningful connections, into relationships, and you just see all the value there. And it's just you know, it's something that you just continue to do, and I'll just continue doing it for a while.
So I did notice that there was, what is your, oh, you asked me that one, Chastity. Now I can see everything that I stopped sharing on my screens, and I was reading that people had questions. They're the questions you asked me earlier, so we are good.
There is a question down there from Alex. It says, what is your advice to keep people from talking over each other during Zoom meetings, especially during lively critical feedback meetings?
So Alex, I would mute them. So no, I'm kind of joking, but I'm not. I would send them a private message first and say, you know, I'm going to ask you to mute your own line because we need everybody to give feedback during this session or during this time. And if they don't take that private message, then I would say, thank you, Cheryl, for that. Now we're going to move on to Chastity. And then I would mute Cheryl's line. And then I would send another private message and said, you know, I'm sorry that, you know, I had to mute your line, but it is very important for us to move this conversation forward, and we need more than just one person's opinion. But, you know, give them an opportunity to do it on their own by sending them the private message, and, you know, maybe have that conversation afterwards too, to make sure that you have that relationship that is moving forward and that they understand that it wasn't personal. And you weren't mad that they were sharing, it was just oversharing. So hopefully that helps.
Hey, Trace, I participated on a call recently, and people literally on their screen raised their hand, and whoever was moderating just called on them. Yes, Govind, go ahead.
I did it.
Well, and there's a reactions thing in Zoom. The problem is like Teams doesn't have the same, you know, features as Zoom does, and so it gets confusing on what you're supposed to do. And I think the reactions help a lot because people can clap their hands and raise their hand and give a thumbs up and all of those things. When you have more than probably, I would say, 8 people on a call, that's where I would encourage everybody to mute their line and then call on them, you know, based on the conversation. That's another way, depending on how many people you have on a call. So Alex, if there's more than, you know, 8 to 10 people on a call, when you first started out, just say, I'm going to mute everybody's line starting out the gate, and we're going to unmute based on, you know, participation. So please wait until, you know, I unmute your line for you to talk. And so then that gives you a little bit more control before it goes off the rails.
I'm speaking, Mr. Vice President. I'm speaking.
Yes, Mr. Ickes. This is not the dance floor, my friend.
So Gobi, we are at 2:31. Do you want to do the award?
Yeah, let's switch gears. Thanks so much, Tracy. That was great. Really powerful, helpful content. This whole entire program was incredible, and I want to thank everyone for joining and your participation. I'm seeing a lot of great activity on the app and the chat box and getting text messages. We are going to, you can be on the lookout. We'll be sending you a follow-up email with a survey to fill out. Please take time to fill it out. We want to know what you liked, what you didn't like. We're always looking to improve this event. We'll also include that volunteer packet that John was talking about. So if you want to volunteer or join a committee, you can fill it out and turn it back to us, and we'll get you plugged in as far as next steps. But yeah, I don't know if people had a hard stop at 2:30 or not, but yeah, let's switch over to the awards. You want me to do like a drum roll? How do we get this thing going?
You got drums, Gobi.
I do. Not set up right now in the studio, but Chastity, do you want to do the first place award? I can do the second place.
Absolutely. So let me make sure I've refreshed. So the first place award goes to Samantha Willis with 21,400 points. Woo!
Killed it.
All
and
right.
she is the prize winner. I think she gets a $500 gift card, Gobi?
You got it.
Is that right?
Samantha, what are you going to do with all that money?
I think the drinks are on Samantha today.
Gonna renew her HFMA membership.
She just crushed it. She's well in the lead. Are you still with us, Samantha?
I am. I guess you can't hear me. Sorry.
You are.
Now we can.
Okay. Yes, I'm saving that for Christmas.
There you go. All right. Second place. Well, second place for someone that actually qualifies for it, because we got to exclude committee members, is Jason Driscoll with 11,900 points. Congratulations, Jason. You are the proud winner.
Way to go, Jason.
$300 Amazon gift card.
Good deal.
All right.
Do you have any
Have
plans?
any of you guys looked at how much your Amazon spending has went up over the past like 6 months? It is not a good place to be. I mean, oh
Even though
my
you could do
gosh.
that, and no, I don't plan on looking.
Now, why would I want to see that?
I didn't even know they
All
analyzed.
right. Oh, you know, there's AI for everything, Tracy. I don't want to look at my wine membership. That's the one that's fearful for me. So the third place, which is going to be, how much? 125?
Third place is 200.
$200. Is it an Amazon or is it just a gift card?
It's Amazon gift card.
Amazon gift card. And I'm going to mess it up again. Govi, can you take the name? Are you good with it? I'm going to say it. Marligny. I'm going to mess it up. I just had you in our breakout room.
Marlene Marina.
How is it?
I think she's still with us.
Yes. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm not the only one.
She's down there.
Yeah.
I am bad. I am very, very bad across the board. So are you with us?
She's still logged in.
She's there. Yeah.
I am. She's there.
I think her mic
So
might be off. All right.
Well, I know that she's participated most of the day. So even, there she is.
There
Thank
she
you
is.
so much. You are welcome. You're the winner. And so sorry I butchered your name. That's all on me. So.
All right. That's all we
Perfect.
got. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for
Great
participating.
job, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Terrific job.
Bye. Have a good day.
Thanks, Gus.
Way to
Great
rock
job,
it,
Govi.
Tracy.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Tracy.
Awesome
Thank
job.
you. This is amazing. Thank you so much.